Alright, homework 25. We only have one problem today, and that is 6.83. A beam of the wide flame shape W8 by 28 has the following cross-section shown with these dimensions. The load on the beam for the cross-section that we care about is V. Use centerline dimensions to calculate the maximum shear stress in the web. So in this section, we have an equation for the centerline dimensions, and conveniently, the dimensions that are given to us in this equation are the dimensions that it's talking about. Notice our H only goes to the center line of our flange and not all the way to the tip, and so we can just plug and chug. However, real quick, this Z inertia in our tau equation, we still need to solve for that also with the centerline approximation, since we keep our approximation equations together. So once we've solved for that, we get its answer, we can plug in everything else and get our answer of 3 kips per square inch. Use the more exact analysis of section 5.10 in chapter 5 to calculate maximum shear stress in the web and compare it with the stress that we just obtained. So this equation, which as it said is much more precise, is not the exact same dimensions here. So we do have to solve for what our H2 and H1 would be, which isn't particularly tricky, but just make sure that you don't forget to do that. And then, of course, our inertia, will be using the exact inertia for this one and plugging all of that in. Now notice these answers here. They are super close together. Technically, the centerline dimension is non-conservative. Sorry, I said that wrong. It is conservative, so it's fine. And it could possibly be just that in this case it's conservative. I don't know, because I'm not doing this 10 or so times. But they're pretty close. And this just shows us that there's different methods to solve for stress, and approximate ones are generally decent, depending on how much accuracy you need. Alright, let's talk about approximate inertias and stresses. So, generally in engineering, because there's a lot of stuff that is not precise, or rather not exact, there's a lot of approximations you'll do, especially when you have to do more complicated problems in future classes. So that's why you have things like your safety factors, and we care if something's conservative or not, and that just tells us how safe, pretty much, how much do we care about something being safe. So when you're using an approximation, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, do I need it to be conservative, or is this approximation conservative? And either answer is yes or no. If it is conservative, you can use that approximation. Or if you need some very precise thing, then you still might want the exact solution. However, having a conservative approximation generally will always be fine. Green light for that. If it isn't conservative, if you have a non-conservative approximation, then you have to ask yourself, okay, what is the risks of using this non-conservative approach? And if you have a high risk, like if you're designing something that you definitely need to make sure that it's not going to fail, because there's safety involved, definitely don't do that, obviously. And then, of course, if it's low risk, then that's when you might want to talk with your peers who you're working with and decide if there's a better approach, or if this is okay. That's all. Approximations, sometimes they're good, sometimes they're risky. It just depends on what you're doing, and you can make the best judgment. Alright, I hope that was helpful, and good luck in class.